Well, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, October the 14th in the year 2025, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, the author Thomas Wolfe wrote the novel You Can't Go Home Again. Well, as it turns out, you can go home again, or at least I got to go home again. Last weekend, I got the opportunity to go home again. More specifically, I spent the weekend in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. It was a weekend to remember with a book signing with many old friends, teammates, and goddaughters. Friday was the book signing hosted by my good friend Henry Ford. My teammates, Missy Jackson and Virgil Pearson, were there. My longtime friend Manuel Cheney, who I've been knowing since I was 10 years old, was there. A neighbor from the old neighborhood, Roslyn Heights, Alvin Crenshaw, was there. Fellow Auburn graduates George Smith and his spouse, and the two Barbaras, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Barbara Larkin. And I'm probably going to leave some people out, but I apologize for that because I don't mean to. But it was an intimate but very special grouping who understood the experience that we had been through. There was discussion, questions, and reflections, and I want to say thanks to all who were there and who made it a very, very special event. Today's show is dedicated to our G-list guest for today is Eric Simmons. And Eric has been a guest in the past. Eric is a retired corporate salesperson who has worked across the United States and in Europe. He's a master salesperson, outstanding speaker, and also a former basketball player at Auburn University. And Eric is here today to talk about his bout with prostate cancer and where he is with it. He will also discuss the similarities between the gene for prostate and breast cancer and the presentation he made at a recent breast cancer convention. We look forward to that conversation. Our show today, of course, is brought to you by the consulting firm of Best Girl. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl continues to customize the solution that fits your needs. So before I move on to the roundtable, let me just say there was another really nice event this weekend that we were able to participate in after the book signing, and that was the UAB School of Nursing celebrated its 75th anniversary. It was a wonderful event. My wife and I got to go. It was good to be back in Birmingham for a short time, but it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and we thank the dean for inviting us. So let's go to the roundtable discussion. Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. How are we doing this morning?
Doing well. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning to both of you,
All right.
gentlemen.
I'm going to start with you this morning, Michael Walker, and tell us about the good news with your daughter. If you don't mind, I shouldn't get personal. I should have asked you, but go ahead and tell me anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, you can do that. You know me that well. So the good news is that Michaela has accepted a position with the University of Syracuse, and her new title is General Manager of Basketball Operations. And since the NIL has begun, there's been a lot of movement by universities to bring back or create a position, general manager. And in many instances, they'll bring back a former player or a player who has played the sport to come in and be the GM of their operations there. So it's funny how college is mirroring pros. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have GMs and the pros in basketball, football, whatever. And now you have the same thing in college. And so Syracuse created this position, and they offered Michaela that job, and she started yesterday.
That's
So,
Oh man,
awesome.
good deal. You know, I was going to say,
Congratulations.
well, pretty soon they're going to be trading players back and forth, but I guess they're already doing
They're
that.
doing that
they're
already.
already doing that because in her role, she'll be managing their NIL and deciding which players they need to bring in and all that type of stuff. So
That's
this will go,
awesome.
it will coincide with her master's that she got at Georgetown, which is sports management. So it gets her into that space.
So
Um,
all those basketball lessons you gave have paid off,
Hey,
huh?
that's right.
that paid off, and also maybe some of the wisdom I gave her about marketing and business and what have you. I remember when she was working on getting her master's, she called me because she had a project to do about the LA Raiders moving from Oakland to the Coliseum and the concessions and all of that type of stuff and how to generate more money. So she called me up for that. And I gave her a little advice. So maybe that worked a little bit too.
Good deal. Good deal. Well,
That's
congratulations again, man, and congratulations to Michaela.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
that's
it.
awesome. Awesome news.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go to Barbara, Michael, and we'll come back to you then. Barbara,
Sounds
what you
good.
got for us?
Well, Tom, I got several things, but first I want to congratulate the Las Vegas Aces. Asia Wilson
Asia.
won the WNBA title. They swept the series, and those girls are women. I'm
Asia
sorry, not
Wilson.
girls. Yeah,
Asia
they're
Wilson
amazing.
is tough, buddy.
Yes,
She can hit that turnaround fade like it's not. She hit that winning shot against somebody. So I was watching the game one night, and she hit that shot right at the end. They won. I think they were playing Phoenix.
Phoenix. Yes, yeah, that's
She's
what they were
great.
playing in the playoffs.
I understand that her boyfriend is Bam
Yes,
from
Yeah.
down in Miami,
yes.
and they play the same position. So I guess they can trade notes and stuff.
Somebody was teasing them saying that between, they have kids, they better have a 6 footer. The baby better come out being 6 feet tall.
Now that would be
Both of them
funny.
being talented, like that. They had to have a superstar born in that family.
That would be hilarious because Bam, I think, is like maybe 6'9", maybe somewhere like that, 6'8", because he plays center, so he's got to be
Right.
somewhere, maybe even 6'10", and Asia's 6'4". So
Yes.
can you imagine them having a
Their
5
baby's
foot,
gonna be
5'8"
baby
kid?
gonna come out 5 feet tall.
Yeah. You have to do some investigation there.
Yeah, that is
Does the
amazing.
milkman still deliver?
Yeah, but they she's the MVP of course the playoffs, the championship, and the league for the year. So hats off to them. They did a tremendous season, and
That Becky Hammond has done well as a coach, hasn't she? She's done really well.
It's interesting you bring her name up.
Popovich hired her, and she was coaching the men.
Yes,
Right,
mhm.
right. As a matter of fact, there was a story that was shared by Becky saying that she took a page out of Greg Popovich's playbook. She said she observed him going to Tim Duncan and saying, "Tim, you're the best player on the team, but you have to allow me to coach you hard, and you have to accept the criticism to show the rest of the team that I'm
Right.
not paying any difference to you." And she said she went and did the same thing with Asia and had a one-on-one meeting and said, "Asia, I have got to coach you hard. You have got to cooperate with that for the
Right.
sake of the team."
Right.
And the
It paid off.
relationship blossomed. Yeah.
And it has paid off for the team. Yeah, that's amazing.
Tony Parker said Papa almost ran him off.
Because he was coaching him so hard.
He had never been coached that hard.
I know.
Popovich is still sick, and is he?
Yeah. I think he had a stroke or something like that. One of them.
Hopefully he'll be okay.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Barbara, what else you got?
Well, while we're on the topic of sports, the NCAA Division I Administrative Committee on Wednesday adopted a proposal to allow student athletes and athletic department staff to bet on professional sports. And that's a major shift. Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you kidding?
I am not kidding. Yeah,
Wait a minute, say
They-
that again now. Say that
they-
again.
Yeah,
the
yeah. I would hear you.
NCAA Division I Administrative Committee on Wednesday adopted a proposal to allow student athletes and athletic department staff to bet on professional sports. And they had not been allowed to do that in the past, and they're saying that the Division II and III are expected to consider the proposal for their respective meetings at the end of October. But if it's approved, that it will go into effect November 1st.
Bet on professional sports.
Professional sports, yes.
Well,
not
but where
college,
they
but-
are now in terms of colleges, they're only one step away from being professional.
Exactly.
I just,
They're pretty much there now. So
people got kicked out of the game. People went
Yes.
to jail for all the betting stuff is really, I don't know. I'm just not into it. But
right.
I mean, they were kicking guys out of the game for that, man.
Yeah. And they've been prohibited from betting on any kind of sporting event, professional, college, or anything in the past. So this will be a new change.
Before we leave, I don't know if there was a 30 for 30 on the other day, and I don't know how long ago. It's been a decade or two maybe, but this guy was one pitch away from a perfect game, and he threw the pitch, and the guy hit the ball to the second baseman. The second baseman got the ball and threw to first base, and when the guy caught the ball on first base, the guy who was running, his foot was about this far from the base. And the man called him safe. And buddy, that place erupted. And the young man, he just looked, he knew he was one pitch from a perfect game, a perfect game.
Right.
And he just grinned because he couldn't believe that this man had said the guy was safe. And so, boy, they went to fussing. They all ran out the dugout and stuff. But this was at least 15, 20 years ago. And everybody admits that the guy was out. And
Right.
even the guy who called him safe, he said, I don't know what happened, but I realize now I made a mistake. And the guy was out. Major League Baseball will not reverse it. They will not agree that the guy, and they say that, hey, the guy was out. The guy was out.
Right.
And made a mistake. They said, well, why don't you change it? Well, we've never changed the call.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. But that young man, he was a young man. He was in his 20s when he was throwing the perfect game, and he's probably in his late 30s or 40s now. He doesn't hold it against anybody.
Right.
He said the guy made a mistake, and my job was to pitch, and that's what I did. And he said, and then he'll grin and he said, but he looked like he was out to me.
Yeah. To everybody else, to him and everyone else except that official.
Man, I couldn't believe it.
Well, speaking of your lying eyes,
Yeah. Yes. I was going to
speaking
bring it
of
up,
your
Michael. Go
lying
ahead.
eyes,
Yes.
my eyes lied to me on Saturday night.
Yes.
Okay. The first time my eyes lied to me was when our quarterback tried to do, and I think it was a play, they tried to do the tush push from Philadelphia and have him push the ball over the line. He jumped up, he dove over, he broke the plane of the line,
Ball.
and Georgia's people, they knocked the ball out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a touchdown ruled on the game.
Right.
Okay. And then all of a sudden, there's a stoppage in play. But now the Georgia guy picks the ball up and runs all the way back down to a touchdown on the other end of the field.
Right.
And they sit there for had to be almost 10 or 20 minutes looking at this play. And then they come out and they reverse the call and say he fumbled the ball before he broke
Across the plane.
Cross the plane. Now, you know what? The thing about that doesn't make any sense, and this is what my lying eyes and my incompetence and dementia tell me as well. If he fumbled the ball, he was under center, okay? So it was a handoff under center.
Right.
So now if he fumbled the ball, he would have had to fumble it before he even jumped to go across the line. Because
Right.
nobody in their right mind would get a ball under center, have the ball, and start to fumble and know he cannot go across the ball if he across the plane if he doesn't have the ball in
In his
control.
hand. Right.
Right. He would have tried to run around somewhere else, he could do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So to say that he fumbled before doesn't make sense. And if it was a fumble, Georgia returned it for a touchdown. So why didn't you give them a touchdown then
Right.
if he fumbled and it was a scoop and score? See, none of that stuff makes sense
None
at
of
all.
it, Michael. None of it. And to nobody does it make any sense except Kirby Smart, of course, and all the Georgia fans.
And the
But
Georgia fans.
yeah, and many Georgia fans even saying that was a touchdown. You know, they agree. So I don't know what's going on. It's like there's a vendetta against Auburn who frees or somebody, because this is what at least the third controversial call like that's been made that was clearly not called in Auburn's favor, and it should have been. So I'm not saying Auburn, that shouldn't have been an excuse for Auburn to lose that game, but that was just
Well, what it did
ridiculous.
was it took all the momentum out of the sails. And
Right.
Auburn have a young football team. The best players are all young.
Yes.
So they haven't been through adversity like that. And when you have a young team, and Tom and I have talked about this, Auburn doesn't have any real dogs on the
Right.
team,
Right.
on defense or offense. And when you run into a situation like that, and I blame Freeze on this, because at halftime,
Mhm.
I've been mad as hell, but
Right.
I've been telling the players, the ref's trying to take the game from you. Go
Right.
out there, kick Georgia ass, and show the refs who you are. Don't let
Exactly.
the refs take. I would have used that as a motivating factor
Right.
to build up some passion in these guys. They came out flat,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't know if you saw watch his demeanor this whole second half, but it's like he was sitting over there pouting the whole second half of the game, mad because of that play that happened at the end of the first half. And it wasn't like he had given up. And so the players probably fed off of that, but it was just, I felt sorry for the players. And got Damari Austin, who I understand he asked to be redshirted. I don't know if that's true. That rumor was he asked to be redshirted. It's like I don't even want to continue to play this year if I'm not going to have a chance to go to the pros, and I'm not getting the ball as much as I should. So I understand that he has been dismissed from the team or quit the team or whatever, and he was one of the stars of the team. So
he was a captain. He was a
right.
captain. And number two, he was the starter at the beginning of the year. He got hurt in the Baylor game, and they held him out the next two games.
Right.
And during that time, Jeremiah Cobb became the starter.
Right.
Yeah. And so, they used to say you couldn't lose your starting position to an injury, Tom. You remember that time.
Yeah.
And so, but looks like Damari lost his starting position due to an injury. And then when he came back, he was being underutilized.
Right.
When you're losing, and what they've lost now, 3 in a row, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're losing them in a row like that, man, it's like a disease is spreading through the team.
Right.
It's just it's hard for the coaches to contain it. Players start sniping at each other, and it's just a different type of thing. But I don't know. I think the worst thing, one of the worst things a coach can do, and I'm not saying this happened because I don't know anything about that situation, but you don't take it out on the player, because
not at all.
You're losing.
Right.
I got hurt, and I tore a hamstring badly and had to miss 3-4 games. And when you are hurt, you can't help the team.
No.
And they start looking at you funny. They start looking at you like it's your fault.
Right. It's no fault of yours that you got hurt.
Yeah, but they ain't. Well, I was gonna say they ain't paying you to be hurt, but they wasn't paying us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Let me ask you guys this. What does this right here mean? What does that signal mean?
Time out.
Is that what that means? Time out. Okay. I saw the big screen, and Auburn has 2 big screens, and I saw Kirby Smart running down the field with this sign,
Right.
doing that and looking up at the clock.
Right.
Okay.
And
Now,
and of course we couldn't hear what he was saying, but the mouthing appeared to be saying time.
out.
Yes.
Time out.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So he has a conversation with the refs. Okay. He then tells the refs he was clapping, and he was clapping because a defensive back for Auburn was clapping. And so he went into this long gyration saying they had been looking at the film of Auburn because they clap when the other team is on offense and stuff. And he told them to let him know when that happened. And so this guy was clapping. Some guy picked that up and showed and say, this guy was 12 yards away from the line of scrimmage.
Right.
It had nothing to do with that. And everybody has signals. He may have been doing something for the defense because it looked like he was calling plays, whatever.
Right.
But the fact that Kirby Smart is going to say he was emulating the clapping and saying that was a penalty. But see, the real deal is there was going to be a delay of game penalty on Georgia because the time was running out.
There was only 1 second left on the clock.
Right.
He
That's why he was calling timeout.
Right.
Now, the problem I have, the referees, after talking to him, they gave him his time back and put the time back on the clock, and he got to replay it down.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Michael, there's got to be some kind of conspiracy going on because that call was another one that was just very, very questionable. Very questionable.
And you wonder, I have no idea. I'm just wondering. But you wonder if, in fact, I mean, they're all human beings. So you wonder if maybe they've got something against Freeze. I don't know.
Maybe.
They talking about firing him and all that stuff. And I never call for coaches to get fired. They got families. That's their job, so on and so forth. They're trying to make a living. And now I can call for the quarterback to be fired because he's hurting us. But
but Tom,
I don't know. Go ahead.
These coaches are getting big money even when they get fired.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There were 3 that were fired over the weekend, and maybe more. But I know Penn State, I think Arkansas, UAB, all let their coaches go mid-season. And I know at Franklin, he got $49 million buyout.
I can't feel any sorrow for Franklin.
Yeah.
He got a $49 million buyout.
Right.
Plus, he'll probably have a job before the next 2 weeks go by.
Probably.
Not to mention that Franklin had a record about 149-40 or some crap like that.
A winning record.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They say he wasn't beating the big schools.
Yeah, well, we got somebody that's not beating them either. So,
and I'll tell you the other thing that surprised me because I guess I don't keep up with it as much as I used to, but that Georgia had beaten us 9 times in a row. Man, Georgia never beat us during our era,
Right.
And I don't know. We gotta figure something out.
Yes, we do.
Between the Freeze and the coaching staff and so on and so forth. And my opinion, I wouldn't go get another quarterback at the transfer portal.
No.
I take the quarterbacks that are there and try to develop them.
Yes.
So that we don't have the quarterback play, man. And unless you have, in my opinion, unless you have a quarterback that's going to be a first-round NFL draft choice in the first 10, 12 picks of the draft, then get you an athlete at quarterback.
Right.
Get you somebody who can run and make people miss. This guy can't do that. And I'm not against him at all, but he's not the answer. But
it's like he's digressing. I watched him in that first game with Baylor, and he seemed to be playing decent at least that first game.
We played 3 chump teams in a row. I could get off
Baylor,
of this chump team.
Yeah, I don't know if Baylor was really considered a chump team, but yeah, they were not, probably top 20, but they were.
If we beat them, they were a chump team.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody scared. Nobody's afraid to go play Auburn right now.
You're right about that now. That's for sure.
Tom
That's
said
true.
we beat them, they were a chump
They
team.
were a chump team. Yeah.
Tom said I can get off on a chump team.
I don't know. I just think we gotta buckle up, man. I don't know.
I don't know why they're not giving Deuce Knight a chance. I mean, we're not winning with Jackson Arnold, so.
Okay, his explanation is Deuce is not quite ready yet. He's young.
But Jackson's not either.
Well, wait a minute now. We have a guy named Ashton Daniels that came from Stanford that was starter last year at Stanford. That can throw. He can run. He hadn't seen the field either. He has more experience. Yeah. Why wouldn't you just at least give him a shot?
I agree.
Okay?
I agree. But let me say this, and I was going to use this in my closing. I'm wondering, because of NIL, and I don't know, but your daughter's a general manager. Maybe she could have some insight into this. But I'm wondering if they're paying these kids enough money that they have to play them.
I think so.
Probably has a lot to do with it.
And he has to be the starting quarterback. It probably is even in his contract or something. But it's just obvious to me that we're not going to go very far with the young man that we have.
Right.
And another thing I'm going to add to that is that with the expansion of playoff teams now going to 12 this year, each conference is trying to get as many of their teams in as possible.
They can, yes.
To go the distance.
Right.
Now, when Auburn went to Oklahoma was ranked number 11th in the country.
Right.
Auburn was unranked. Okay. Auburn should have won that game. But for them to take that touchdown off on a scoop and score, and then to allow this player to walk over there like he's going out of bounds and then go get a touchdown, all of that stuff.
Yes.
They did not want Auburn to beat Oklahoma because it would have knocked them down. Oklahoma get beat by an unranked team at home.
Yes.
Okay. Then you come in and we go to Georgia. Now, everybody know they've been on Georgia's jockstrap for the last 5 years. The national media and everybody else has. Okay. Yeah, I said it. It's true. Okay. Here's the deal. Kirby Smart has already lost one game, and that was Alabama. See, they were supposed to beat Alabama. They were favored by 3.
Right.
Alabama beat them in between the hedges. So now they come to Jordan-Hare Stadium. That touchdown would have put Auburn up 17-0. With a young team like that, they will be motivated off of that and like, hey, we're finna kick this butt, okay?
Right.
Georgia would have had a hard time coming back. I'm not saying that they would not have, but it would have made a big difference in their game. They did not want Georgia to lose that game because Texas was ranked number 1 preseason. Where's Texas? They're out, okay? So right now, it's Alabama, it's Georgia. You got Texas A&M, and who else? Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia. Oklahoma's on the fringe.
Right.
So we can get
Ole Miss is doing pretty good.
And Ole Miss. That's right, Ole Miss. So right now we got possibly 5 teams, and we're going to beat each other up and all that type of stuff. But they don't want a team like Auburn, who doesn't have a snowball chance in hell of winning the national championship, to upset the apple cart along the way. So, you know,
if that's the case, Auburn just need to give up and just don't show up for games and just say, okay, you win. Because, you know, I think it's deflating to the kids' motivation to them to go out there and work hard and come to play, clearly beating the other team, and then to get these kind of calls against them.
And when you have a call that goes against you and it's a controversial call, it just stays with you. It affects the team. I had one of those against Alabama, and you know, we were lining up for the extra point, and all of a sudden chaos broke out, and Bear Bryant was out on the field, Suge was out on the field, you know, and it was just that. But I tell you, I think about Donnie Moore a lot of times. But what I decided that night that, and I still, I mean, that's 50 years ago almost. And I still have people ask me about it. That touchdown you scored against Alabama, they took that touchdown from you, blah, 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 blah. you just have to roll with it. And I've said this before. I remember Donnie Moore. Donnie Moore was a pitcher for the California Angels, and California. Gene Autry was the owner, and they had never gone to the World Series. And they were one strike away from going to the World Series, and this guy hit a home run, and they lost the game. And Donnie Moore went home and killed himself.
Yeah.
And so you have to let it go, man. Whatever it is, you have to let it go.
Yeah.
So anyway, we kind of beaten that one around. Let's go and see what Sean has got for us this morning on Got a Minute. Sean, you out there somewhere?
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. An enormous crowd consisting mostly of African American men demonstrates on the National Mall in October of 1995, an event known as the Million Man March. Driven by their desire to see Congress act in the interests of African Americans and to combat negative stereotypes of Black men, a disputed but undeniably high number of attendees unite for over 12 hours of speeches by leaders from many different corners of the civil rights movement. The Million Man March was the brainchild of Louis Farrakhan, leader of the Nation of Islam, and was organized by the National African American Leadership Summit and many other groups. The march was largely a response to the politics of the time, with a Republican-controlled Congress and a conservatively Democratic President, Bill Clinton. Washington was gripped by a desire to lower taxes and to cut government spending on education, housing, and social programs. Attendees took in speeches and performances by representatives from the African and the Caribbean, a number of Christian ministries, and other figures such as Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King III, Maya Angelou, and Dr. Cornel West, and many others. Organizers point out the fact that over 1.5 million Black men registered to vote for the first time over the course of the next year as evidence of their success. Make sure you also go out and vote. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
I went to the Million Man March. There were several of us who went. Ford, myself, Cedric McIntyre, a couple of other guys, and it was an incredible event. I've never been more proud. It was the Minister Farrakhan was the guy who started it, and he got up and spoke. And the thing that was so interesting was at the end of the day, we would go back to the hotel so we could watch the news, so that the news could tell us what we already knew, and how they would frame it. They would put it in a framework that, like, man, that didn't happen. It wasn't that way. And it was one of the most pleasurable and one of the proud moments for me in my life. And I still got photo of all of us who went. And the Million Man March, it was spectacular. It was something really, really special. So let's go to the G list. Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G list. Our G list guest today is Eric Simmons. Now, Eric has been with us before. He's a former basketball player at Auburn University and a corporate salesperson. One of the best salesperson, I think it was IBM, but he'll correct me when he comes on if it wasn't. He's going to talk to us about prostate cancer and his prostate cancer and its remission. And he has some revelations he wants to share. So let's bring on Eric Simmons. Good morning, Eric. How are you, brother?
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Barbara and Michael.
Good morning.
Thank you all for having me this morning, Tom.
What's going on? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I had an opportunity to be at the Georgia Alliance for Breast Cancer Expo at the Cobb Galleria last week. And my foundation, my Prostate Cancer Awareness Foundation, was the only prostate organization there. And it was an incredible time. mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And one of the things I'll share with your audience today that I'm learning more and more about is the connection between prostate cancer and breast cancer, which is the BRCA gene. And I'll get into that in a little more detail. But things are going well. You mentioned that my cancer is in remission, which coming from the state that I was in 3 years ago is nothing but an absolute miracle. And just for your audience, and I don't know if you want me to get into this right now, Tom, but I nearly died from prostate cancer. And unfortunately, I was one of those men that refused to see a doctor. I didn't have a lot of trust in doctors. I was a former college athlete. And so there was somewhat of an air of invincibility in my head as to, I never get sick. I've always been pretty healthy, and cancer happens to other people. But that neglect ended up costing me over $653,000 in medical bills, 115 doctor's office visits and lab tests. I had 5 cystoscopies, that's when you place small catheters in your kidneys. I had 40% prostate, 40% cancerous cells in my prostate. And thanks to God's grace and mercy, throughout that process, I had 2 divine interventions, and I'm alive today to tell my story. So I feel blessed.
You talked a little bit about breast cancer, and I know you and I talked about this the other day, but my position coach in college, he died of breast cancer. And, you say, well, men don't get breast cancer. Yeah, men do get breast cancer.
And, my tale is really interesting. My body was sending me signals that I was absolutely ignoring. One of the first signs of prostate cancer, especially for men, after we get about over 55 years old, is frequent urination. And Tom, I had started getting up at night, first 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, sometimes as much as 7 times a night.
Damn.
And urinating, and I wasn't expelling all the urine in my bladder. And then a second symptom that I was having, I noticed when I would shower, the tops of my feet were getting black, not knowing that my kidneys were failing. But I self-diagnosed, and I said, okay, what's happening here is I used to get my ankles taped pretty heavily in college. Blood circulation might be an issue. I could be having what's like a varicose vein effect. And the other conclusion was that I broke a lot of ankles playing basketball at all. So I was self-diagnosing, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And so subsequently, what happened to me, as the cancerous cells were growing in my prostate, my urethra, or I call it my pee pipe, became completely shut. And when that happened, urine was being retained in my bladder. And my bladder was so large that the doctors told me that it had moved all the way from above my groin area all the way up into my sternum. Now, with my bladder being full, my kidneys began to overwork themselves trying to expel waste within the body. And so having overworked themselves, my kidneys were functioning at a level, I use quintile, and that might be incorrect in the medical community, but my kidneys were functioning at a level 6. Now, dialysis range is 0 to 9, and that measurement is called EGFR, which stands for effective glomerular filtration rate. I was at a 6, and I was in the hospital about 10 days while 10 different doctors looked at me, and my nephrologist, kidney doctor, kept me in because he was certain that my kidneys were going to fail. About 3 occasions, on about 3 different occasions, that nephrologist told me, Mr. Simmons, when I first met you, I was certain you were going to have to be placed on dialysis. So now with the cancer, it took about 2 months before they could conclude that I had prostate cancer. And the problem was all of this was happening during the height of COVID. And so after 2 months, I finally was able to get an MRI, a CT rectal exam, and a biopsy. And that's how they discovered the cancer. Well, as I was going through all of this, I also had nephrostomy tubes placed in my kidneys. And that's where you go in from the back and into the kidneys so that if the kidneys fail, the urine would flow into urine bags that can be attached to two plastic tubes. They're like coupling devices. Those devices were so uncomfortable because I sleep on my back. I became so distraught. On two occasions, I contemplated suicide.
Mm.
And the devil had gotten into the fray because I was saying, okay, my kidneys have failed. I might have to be placed on dialysis. I've been diagnosed with stage 4B prostate cancer. There's 4C and stage 5. So I was 2 steps away from certain death. And I had given up all hope. And then God came into the picture. I was sitting on my bed and a commercial came on about St. Jude's Hospital. And this mother was thanking St. Jude for letting her child be there at no cost. And the camera panned over to the young man. He was about 7 or 8 years old, and his head was bald. And this kid had so much faith and so much courage. It changed my whole outlook. I said, okay, I've got cancer. Now what can I do? I said, I can wallow in self-pity or I can fight. And I chose to fight. And so I began meditating on a daily basis. And I would tell my body that you have an invader. I need you to go in and fight the invader. I started exercising regularly again. I started walking about 2.5 miles a day. I started eating properly. I always ate well, but I ate more vegetables, lean meat. And through all of this, I had two divine interventions. And the first happened when I learned my kidneys had failed. And I saw a bright light in the emergency room. And immediately I knew I was in the presence of God. And when I saw the light, I said, well, if God's in the emergency room, he's here to take me home. I was so distraught about learning my kidneys had failed, my head dropped in exhaustion. I said, Lord, I can't believe it's my time to die. But if it is, all I ask is that you look inside my heart. I said, because I believe once you do, you'll find that the good far outweighs the bad. And I said, and I wanted to say, Lord, please allow me to go into heaven. But I didn't. I said, and Lord, once you've assessed me, may your will be done. The next thing that happened, I saw this clear gel moving in this big funnel of bright light, and I knew God was assessing me. Eventually, the light went away, and I said, okay, God didn't come to get me today, but the person on my left or right in the emergency room is going to die. Within hours, the person on my left died. The second divine intervention happened after I had my prostate removed. I chose to have a robotic prostatectomy. In other words, it's a robot-assisted type surgery. Most people have the misconception that the robot is actually performing the surgery, but that's not the case. The robot is mimicking every movement of the surgeon's hands. Because the surgeon places his hands in gloves. There's a microscope inside the human body. He's got magnifying glasses. And it's every procedure that he makes, from opening with a scalpel to stitching, the robot is mimicking those movements. So I chose that approach, and my doctor told me that following the surgery, hopefully none of the cancer got out. He saw some cancer on the periphery of my prostate, but he had hoped none got out. Unfortunately, the cancer spread to 5 areas of my body: one near my bladder, one on my spine, two on my below my shoulder blades, and one on one of my upper ribs. So after the surgery, I had gone to sleep, and I was awakened by my bed shaking, and I saw the right wing of an angel. And I knew it was the right wing because I could see the tip at the end on my left side. And that angel wing covered every area that the cancer had spread. And so incredibly, 2 weeks after the surgery, my doctor came in and said, okay, Eric, we're changing your whole treatment plan. We are not going to do radiation for 13 weeks. Well, my first thought was, I said, well, are you getting ready to do chemo? I said, because I don't want chemo. He said, no. He said, your cancer is so minute, we're changing your whole plan. We're going to do hormone therapy. And hormone therapy involves reducing the male testosterone to about a level of 32. Because medically they found once the level's at 32, the cancerous cells starve themselves to death. They don't have any fuel or food to to build on and to continue to grow. The second thing that prostate cancer cells love is bone. And fortunately for me, on 4 different bone scans now, the cells haven't invaded my bone. So now I'm level stage 4B, which is advanced cancer. Dr. Martin Luther King's son, Dexter Scott King, was stage 4. He had a lesser degree of cancer than I, but the reason why he died was the cancer had invaded his bones. A month ago, I asked my doctor, I said, what is the life expectancy of a man that has gone through what I've gone through? I've had stage 5 chronic kidney disease where my kidneys have failed, stage 4B prostate cancer. And he looked at me and said, without even blinking, he said, 1 year. So someone in my condition, the life expectancy is 1 year. I'm 2.5 years in, and my doctor informed me a month ago that my cancer is in remission. So mine is a cautionary tale of the importance of men, particularly Black men, to go see their doctors. And while many of us may be reluctant about having a rectal exam and feel that it is a violation of our manhood, in today's medical world, we can have a blood test that's called a PSA test. It stands for prostate specific antigen. And that antigen is a protein that gets into the bloodstream. And by measuring your PSA level, a doctor can tell you how your prostate is doing. So after I had gone through all of this, I've learned that Winship Cancer Institute, Emory's Healthcare, their cancer facility, offered DNA testing because I was curious as to whether I had inherited prostate cancer from my dad. Fortunately for me, I didn't. But during this process, I learned that there is a connection between prostate cancer and breast cancer, and it's called the BRCA gene. We have every person, man and women, have BRCA genes. And what the BRCA gene does, and BRCA stands for the BR is breast and the CA is cancer. And so what the BRCA genes are designed to do is, if you would envision the cells in your body as a house, inside of that house, you have DNA. And that's the picture, the strand in the middle of the house that you see. And so the DNA acts like, what happens is BRCA genes are designed to repair problems within the cellular house. So they're a repair tube. So if a DNA strand is wiring in a home, if that wiring becomes frayed or damaged, then the BRCA gene is supposed to repair it. But if the BRCA gene itself becomes broken or mutated, then that wiring isn't going to get fixed. And so what happens is that mutant BRCA gene is being passed on as cells split and divide, because each cell becomes two, that always divides into two. So one cell becomes 2, 2, 4, 4, 8, 8, 16. So now you've got this replication of a mutant or erroneous gene that can make cells abnormal, and that's how you get cancer. So in the Black community, the BRCA gene is, I think, probably responsible for why so many Black men have prostate cancer, but men can also get breast cancer from the BRCA gene. And interestingly enough, in the Jewish community, Jewish women of the Ashkenazi ancestry, that's Central and Eastern Europe. Here's what Penn Medicine says. Women and men of Ashkenazi, Jewish, Central or Eastern European ancestry have a 1 in 40 chance of carrying a BRCA1 or BRCA2 gene mutation. This is about 10 times greater chance than that of the non-Jewish population. So not only does the BRCA gene affect, men in terms of prostate cancer, it affects women in terms of breast cancer. So there is a linkage between the two. And I was shocked to learn that, because when I did a DNA test, the Winship Cancer DNA specialist told me, she said, Eric, had you had the BRCA gene, you could have passed it on to your sons, and each of them would have had a 50% chance of developing prostate cancer, and your daughter would have had a 50% chance of developing breast cancer. So for men and women, Black, white, any nationality, it's important for us to see a doctor. And because if we don't, you could have a story like mine You could have breast cancer or prostate cancer, not knowing, and you could end up dying from it, just from medical neglect.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh man, thanks, Eric. Michael, Barbara, you got any questions for Eric?
Eric,
Yeah.
first, yeah, go ahead, Michael.
My buddy
One
said
thing,
that Richard Roundtree had breast cancer, Shaft.
yes, he
Died
did.
from
Yeah,
my position coach at Auburn. He died from breast cancer.
Mhm.
Well,
Go
yeah.
Michael,
ahead.
before you begin, a month ago, I was at the Mercedes-Benz facility. Emory Healthcare was donated a bus to do prostate screening in underserved communities. Arthur Blank, the billionaire owner, co-founder of Home Depot and owner of the Atlanta Falcons, was there. I had a chance to meet him. Arthur Blank is a prostate cancer survivor. Montel Jordan of This Is How We Do It fame, he was also there, and he has prostate cancer. So you can be, you don't have to be a celebrity. You can be any man, and you can be diagnosed with prostate cancer. So that's the importance why through my foundation I started it, because I wanted to create greater awareness, particularly in underserved communities, about prostate cancer and the damage it can do if we don't get PSA blood work. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I just wanted to mention that in regard to testing, there's a company, and I think they're down in Florida, Tom, that's doing research, and what they are now doing is utilizing beagle dogs, because the dog's ability to smell is so many times greater than most any other animal there is. And they have these beagles that can sniff out cancer. And basically, what you do is you put on a mask, kind of like COVID, and you breathe into it and you send this off. And then they have a machine they put in, and they use AI to track the dogs and stuff. And they go in and they have a 97% accuracy. You can Google it up and they'll talk about it. But what they focus on is breast cancer, colorectal cancer, and prostate cancer. And they have been able to sniff out through this process. So there's another less invasive way of being able to get tested now with that. So I just wanted to share that as
Yes,
part
thank
of it.
you for sharing that. Yeah.
Butch,
Yes,
you talked a lot about higher being and
yes.
your experience with the angel wing and God and so on and so forth.
Right.
So I'm going to ask, do you think you were chosen because you have this ability to spread the word, to create a foundation, to affect other men in a very positive way?
You know, that's an interesting question, Tom. As I was going through my prostate cancer journey, the question I kept asking myself was, why me, Lord? Why am I going through all of this hardship? And then after my divine interventions and now my cancer's in remission, I do believe that that is my purpose. You know, I believe that we all have assignments in life at different stages of our lives. You had an assignment to walk on to play football at Auburn and became the second scholarship football player. Well, I think we all have these assignments and we may not recognize them when we have them, but we do. And I just think this is another part of my prostate cancer journey. I am a poster child for what can go wrong if you don't go get checked. And so sharing my story, it was so funny. I was talking to a nurse and she said, Eric, if you can save just one life, everything that you've been through would have been worthwhile. And when I spoke at a church about 3 weeks ago, someone walked up to me and said, you know, after all you've been through, if you could save just one life, your journey would have been worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Tom, I do believe it's been a calling. It's been an assignment.
I agree with you. I was thinking the other day, and I remember once a man, a reporter asked me and James Owens, if you had to do it over, would you do it again? And we had those big pauses and long pauses, but you think about the good that you were able to do for others, and if that's the case, then you realize you were put there for a certain for a purpose. We all
Lost
have.
one. I lost one of my earpieces. But to bring it home even more closely, the four of us all went to Auburn at a time where there weren't maybe 100 blacks.
Right.
And because of our perseverance and the sufferings that we experienced, we opened doors for other blacks. So we all had a calling at the same time. We had an assignment.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I like to just piggyback off of what you and Tom were talking about, Eric, is that not only because of what you've gone through, you will inspire other people to get checked, but
I hope
the fact that you went through it and you're on the other side of it now in
Yes.
remission, that's gonna impact even more lives, because what you said up front was most people in the Black community do not trust doctors, and that's because of the historical
correct.
experiences we've had.
Right.
But now you have
Right.
been through that journey, and so now you can talk about, hey, this may be what you'll go through, but this is how you handle it. So on both sides, you're providing some inspiration.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that, Mark.
And Butch, you talked a little bit about the symptoms you had at first. Are there more symptoms people should look for? And at what age should men have their first test done, the PSA test?
Right. The medical community, and I can only really speak to Black men in this regard, recommends at age 55. However, I'm recommending age 40. And the reason why is I'm a referral patient for Emory.
Right.
And they had a Black man that was 38 years old that was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So I would say at 40, start getting the PSA blood work done. And that way, the doctor that you're working with can begin to check regularly to see how your prostate is doing. But you can have prostate cancer and not even know it. One of the members on my board is Jewish, and he inherited the BRCA gene from his mother. He had prostate cancer and had none of the symptoms.
Wow.
The only way he found out was through a PSA test. He had none of the symptoms. So I guess to answer your question, the biggest things I would say to men is look for changes in your body.
Right.
Frequent urination is probably the number one thing to start looking for. But any changes if you start feeling different, if you start feeling tired. Another thing that happened to me, I started losing weight. And I was losing weight because my bladder had gotten so large, it was pressing against my colon, and my stomach was just basically compressed. And then, so things like that, Barbara. But the number one is probably going to be frequent urination.
Okay. Thank you. And you mentioned the BRCA gene a couple of times. Again, I've been to the doctor many times. I've never even heard them talk about the BRCA gene. So is that something you get tested for? You say this gentleman's on your board inherited from his mom. How did she know she had it? Because again, my doctors have never tested me for that.
Great question. Barbara, I was so concerned as to whether I had inherited the prostate cancer gene. I didn't know it was the BRCA gene. Emory, turns out they had a DNA specialist. And that DNA specialist, I think I took a saliva swab, maybe sent it in, and this organization came back with the results. That's how you can tell. You can get a test for the BRCA gene.
Couple of things. Eric, Lloyd Hughes says he wants you to call him to follow up on you guys' discussion.
Okay.
And so we got time for maybe one more here.
I want Butch to talk about his book, because you've written a book to talk about your journey. Can you share that with everyone and how they can get a copy of your book?
Yeah, you're so kind, Barbara. My experience was so incredible to me. And so what I did, I documented my experience from the time that I had gone to the outpatient clinic and thought I had urinary tract infection all the way through my prostate cancer surgery. And I entitled the book, Prostate Cancer Came A-Knocking. It's available in every major online bookstore. The Cleveland Public Library purchased 27 copies of the book for each of its branch locations. And basically, I honestly wrote the book for Black women because, and this will work for any underserved class of women, But because women tell us men all the time, us black men, please go see a doctor. Please go see a doctor, and we don't. So I hope my book will arm them with ammunition to say, look at this, read this part right here. Look at what happened to Butch. I don't want this to happen to you. And Barbara, and also just a quick plug, my website has a lot of information for men in the underserved community about prostate cancer. I try to consolidate as much as I could in one place, and that's www.pcaware.org. It's PCAWARE.
Yeah. I think also talking about the and also talking about people in their fear of doctors and stuff, and that's a legitimate fear, and in a lot of ways it's based on history. It's certainly legitimate, but you know, my doctor is 150 miles away from me, but I go to him because I trust him, and I've been knowing him. We went to Auburn together. And matter of fact, he was the first black guy to graduate from Auburn with a pre-med degree, whatever. And so I think you find that person that you can have faith in.
Absolutely, Tom. Absolutely.
That you can sit down and talk to. You can go and you can talk to about things you don't necessarily want to talk to everybody else about. Right. And you trust them, and so I understand the fear, but I also think you can find somebody that you trust that was really willing to work with you.
That's what they call in the medical community, seek a second opinion. Yeah. So if you're not comfortable with your first doctor, keep looking and asking. Ask people like me, like, what was your experience like? Who is your doctor? Things like that, so that you have a comfort level with the person that you're going to be with, because the fear of not going, I call it the Russian roulette effect, right? You're playing Russian roulette with your life. Because you're spinning the chamber and hoping that nothing happens. But 1 in 6 black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime, and we're twice as likely to die from the disease than our white male counterparts. And prostate cancer, if caught early enough, has a 97 to 99% success rate. It's one of the most treatable cancers out there, but it's got to be caught early. If you wait too late, like I did, it could be fatal.
All right, Eric, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you coming back. And,
you're more than welcome.
You always give us great information. We're getting great comments in the chat about this being a great program and the information that you share. And so we certainly appreciate it, man. You've always been, I call you up and I ask you to do something, and you make yourself available, and I appreciate it, man.
Well, going back, Tom, about the assignments, I was always humbled by the fact that you were like a star football player, and here I was, a little walk-on, and you would take time and come over to my apartment and say, "Hey, Butch, how you doing? If there's anything wrong, just let me know." And so you had an assignment, and that meant a lot. It meant a lot to me that you would look out, for others. So I appreciate it.
It's interesting that you say that, but talking to Mitzi, everybody here on the thing knows Mitzi Jackson. He was my roommate, and I call him my younger brother. But we had a camaraderie that says we were there to take care of each other. Yes. We were there to make sure. Most of our parents hadn't been to college. It was a first generation thing, and so we not only had the pressure of our respective sport and the school, but we were responsible for the other people around. And my job was to make sure that Mitzi and Cedric and that they graduated, and that not only did well in their careers, but that we graduated. So. Yes. But thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Good to see you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
quick closing comment. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next on the list of coaches to be fired this year? James Franklin from Penn State is the latest, but he won't be the last. But his buyout should lessen his pain with $40-something million buyout that he's getting. Plus, his overall winning record will have others knocking on his door real soon. I wouldn't doubt if he doesn't have a job in the next week or so. A final question about the NIL. Does the NIL that some players, especially the average college quarterback, and by average I mean someone who is just that, an average player, but because he's getting the big money, he has to play. And someone who is better than him maybe does not play because they're not getting the big money. Does it also mean the guy who is average and getting big bucks means he gets to play at the expense of winning? You're not winning, but you continue to play the same guy, and also taking time that could be given up to some up and coming player, developing a player, especially a quarterback. I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of room for development. And that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the comments in the chat today. Very interesting show, a great show. Thank Eric for sharing that information with us. Thanks again to the TWT team of Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. Special thanks to our audience. And that's it for this October the 14th in the year 2025. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.